Hey Luna, record. As a musician, recording is something that's gonna happen at one time or another. Be it for a TikTok video, for a fully flashed album production, or even just for the sake of practice and experience. And drums are famously one of the hardest instruments to record because of size, because of loudness, because of the amount of moving parts in a drum kit, the amount of mics required for it to be captured correctly, many reasons. It's very cumbersome. But luckily, nowadays, as drummers, we have access to plenty of tools that makes our life a lot easier. And the first that comes to mind is this one, electric drum kits. They are game changers. They truly are incredible tools, and they are very underutilized tools if you ask me. The scope of what you can do with these guys is insane, and there are plenty of different ways that you can use an electric drum kit to record yourself as a drummer. And of course, those different ways may vary quite a lot when it comes to the gear required for you to pull it off, the capabilities for monitoring, and of course the overall result, the quality of the recording itself. So I'm gonna be going over some of the different methods today and showcasing a little bit of the pros and cons for each method. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first and simplest method is just recording yourself straight from the module of your electric drum kit. Of course, that's gonna require an electric kit that has an SD card port. I think that's a very commonplace feature nowadays. Not all kits have them, but it wouldn't be rare to find it. In the case of my kit, my module, the Roland TD17, the slot for an SD card is here on the side. Right here it is. Okay. Try to put it back on. So you can record yourself from the module. The way to do it on this kit is like this. You're gonna press on this little dot right here. This is the rack button, and it's gonna take you straight to the rack area. So once you're here, all you gotta do is press play and you're gonna start recording. I gotta say that I love this method of recording yourself using an electric drum kit. Even though you won't be using this recording for any professional application, you won't be providing this to a mixing engineer to put it on the final take of the album, but it's a great way to save ideas on the spot because it's very quick and very easy to get to. It doesn't require any further gear than the electric kit itself, so it's a very handy way to record yourself, save your ideas, and even exchange ideas with, let's say, other band members. So it's a very handy and very useful tool that was introduced to electric drum kits, and I do think that most kits nowadays will have this kind of capabilities. The second method to record yourself using an electric drum kit is going into a computer by medium of an audio interface and a DAW, which is a digital audio working station. So if those two terms are actually new to you, let me explain. An audio interface is a device that basically interfaces audio from the real world, an instrument, voices, anything that produces sound, goes into the interface, and the interface translates that into digital audio to be manipulated inside of your computer, doing the other way around as well, bringing digital audio from your computer back into the real world. In a kit such as this one, the way to send audio out, you have these two outputs, at least on this kit is only two outputs, that by the use of these cables, they go from the outputs of the module into the inputs of the interface, allowing you to work with that audio inside of your computer using a digital audio workstation. A DAW is basically the kind of software that you use to work with audio. The amount of stuff that you can do in a DAW is simply staggering, it's way too much. So I won't really be going into what you can do in a DAW in this video. For now, understand this. In a DAW, you can create different tracks that can receive audio or even other types of signal, I'll get to that later, from the external world and be recorded. So here you see me creating a new track, setting input 9 and 10, which are the inputs on my interface. They are receiving the sound of my drums, and now if I make any sound on the drums, you will see it being reflected here inside of the DAW. There is something that I want to show you, which is one of the biggest benefits that you get out of recording with a DAW rather than, let's say, the previous method that I just showed you. When you're recording using a DAW, you have access to something called comping. Usually when a musician records something, he's going to record more than one take of it. So let's say you recorded 3 full runs of the song that you're working on. Comping basically allows you to mix and match in between those takes. You can use whatever part was done best out of each take and preserve it for the final take. Everything that I just told you are basic features of any DAW. You would be able to do this on any that you choose. And believe me, there are plenty to choose from. and they can differ from one another quite a lot. The one I recommend is this one, Luna, for several reasons. Luna is a fantastic tool. It's actually a very good digital audio workstation, one of the best currently at the market, and it's actually unbelievable that it's free. Of course, you have paid tiers for it that you get other sorts of benefits, but for this application, you get everything you need out of the free tier, which is insane. If you want to know a little bit more about digital audio workstations or even see them in action in depth, give it a look to our other channel, which is BardonMusic Production and Mixing, where you'll see DAWs being used in context on a daily basis. And there's also a very cool tool and feature that you get out of Luna that is very handy if you're recording yourself by yourself. Let me show you. Hey Luna, record. So now that we understand that, what are the pros and cons of this method of recording electric drums? I'd say the purpose of this method will be very similar to the previous one, but to a higher standard. I still wouldn't use this to record seriously music because of a very simple reason. The two outputs of the module sending into the interface are summing the sounds from the entirety of the kit, snare, toms, crashes, everything, is going as a stereo pair. Which means in practice that it's going to be a single audio file registering the sound of the entirety of the drum kit. Why is this not ideal in a professional musical scenario? Because on later stages of music production, let's call it mixing, mastering, stuff like that, the mixing engineer, for instance, would require access to independent audio files, independent recordings for different parts of the kit. Like that, he would be able to mix them to his taste correctly. If he only has one audio file containing the entirety of the kit, for instance, he wouldn't be able, let's say, to apply a reverb just to the snare, because the snare is attached to all of the rest of the kit. In order for him to do that, he needs independent audio files containing different information when it comes to the recording of the kit. Now that you understand the concepts of digital audio workstations, it's important to understand that they don't work only with audio. There are other types of signal that they can understand and manipulate. And this is the principle that the next method that I'm going to show you relies on. Now, this way to record electric drum kits is using virtual instruments. What is that? It's basically a simulation of an instrument that's recreated digitally. So basically you have the sounds of a drum kit being replicated digitally inside of your computer. But how does this apply to actually performing and recording your performance on an electric drum kit? These kits, this kind of devices, they don't generate sound. And none of these pads actually generate sound. They only send information that is sent to this module. Then this module triggers sounds based on what you played. These are basically buttons. The same principle can apply inside of your computer. So rather than playing something inside of this module, you're going to be playing something inside of your computer, a virtual instrument. And that is done through MIDI. MIDI is the type of information that these devices send that is then translated into sound by a computer, be it the module, which is a kind of computer, or your computer. So first, what are the requirements for this particular application? You're going to need first a way to connect your drum module to your computer through a MIDI cable, something like this. And then of course you're going to need the virtual instrument that you're going to be using to create these sounds. So now you ask me, why would I go through all of this hassle? This actually solves a very big problem, because the thing that I mentioned about why I wouldn't use the previous method to record anything serious, you can actually record seriously with this one. Because in most serious virtual instruments, you would actually have the option to record your drums as multi-output, which in practical terms simply means that you would have those independent audio files for different parts of the kit, allowing the mixing engineer to do his job correctly. I'm not going to go deep into how to get that going because I actually already produced a video explaining that. So it should be somewhere around the screen, you can check that out there. So this is a method that can actually be used for serious recording, but it does come with its caveats. First, it's a little bit more work, as you've seen, but also outside of that, it creates an issue called latency. Because now that we're sending information from the kit to the computer for something digitally to be triggered inside of the computer and then to be sent back to you so you can hear it, that creates a delay in between the time that you're performing on the drums, you're playing the drums, and what you're gonna hear back. That delay is not huge, but when we're talking about something as fine as playing music, that's actually a deal breaker. That gets us into the realm of monitoring. Monitoring basically means hearing yourself, okay? We're talking about what you hear while you're performing. If you are monitoring the sound of the drum kits coming from the virtual instrument, you're gonna have latency, and that's gonna create all sorts of problems. That's not really a good idea. But there are ways to work around it, because in fact this way of recording relies on the previous method as well. Because if you send the sound coming from your module into the interface, you can monitor that without latency, because there's no virtual instrument being triggered inside of the computer for you to listen to that. You're actually listening to what you're playing on the kit. So if on your digital audio workstation you have both the MIDI track recording, which is the track that you're gonna record to be triggering the virtual instruments, and also an audio track receiving the sound from the kit, you can monitor yourself using this track. So what you're gonna be hearing is not the sound of the virtual instrument. What you're gonna be hearing is the sound of the drum kit coming from the module. I know that this method is a little bit more convoluted, but honestly, it pays off to understand how it works and to actually go through the effort of doing this. And at the end, what you're left with is a MIDI track, this that you're seeing right here, containing the information of your drum performance, and then that information is gonna feed the virtual instrument that's gonna trigger the sounds reacting to your performance. And what are the pros and cons here? Pros, there are very big pros. First and foremost, the whole thing about having multi-output, which is the pro approach. Secondly, MIDI is highly editable. You can actually work on your performance and edit your performance any way you want it. You can change the position of a kick, you can change a crash, you can do literally whatever you want. But I would also treat that as a con, because you shouldn't rely on editing. You should be sharp enough not to need editing. Editing is a fantastic tool, for instance, when you're coming up with drum parts. Let's say you have some ideas, but they are not quite there. You can record yourself with MIDI, get that quasi idea going, and then on your computer, editing the MIDI, you can actually try to fine tune, let's say, your drum pattern or a feel or something like that, and be able to not have to be performing different takes every single time. And then once you got something going, of course, you're gonna learn that pattern, you're gonna learn that feel, and you're gonna do it correctly when it's time to record it. But MIDI editability is a very, very handy tool. Another benefit of this that also comes with a bad side is being able to work on the sound itself post-recording. Because once you have the MIDI information containing your performance, you can work on the virtual instrument any way you want it. After you already recorded, you can choose a different snare, for instance. You can make your snare bigger, you can make your crashes brighter or anything like that. So anything that the virtual instrument that you're using allows you to do, you can do it after you already recorded. So of course that gives you a lot of freedom, but that might actually give you too much freedom. Once again, I think this kind of tools should be used very conservatively, because it's very important to commit to sounds. If you're gonna play something, you should already, from the get-go, choose a sound that fits what you're playing. You shouldn't be trying to pursue the sound after you performed already, because it means that your performance won't have been inspired by that sound. Now, when it comes to the fourth method of recording yourself using an electric drum kit, it's actually something that I stumbled upon while trying stuff out for this video, and it's something that I'm gonna make a comment on it. I'm gonna expose it to you, but I'm gonna bring it to the conversation as something that you shouldn't do. Here's why. This method actually doesn't require an interface, all right? You can go straight recording MIDI from the MIDI output of your kit being received by your computer without sending any form of audio. To do that, a kit like this, for instance, that has Bluetooth capabilities, I can send audio from my digital audio workstation, from my computer, to it through Bluetooth, and monitor everything from the module itself. So since it's gonna be receiving the music through Bluetooth, when I record here, I can plug my headphones into the headphone output of the module, and I'm gonna be hearing the music played from the computer, plus the drumming played from the drums, all right? What is the huge issue with that? Bluetooth sends information wirelessly and there's also latency in that. You already know what latency is. There's quite a lot of latency in Bluetooth, which means that your performance won't be synced correctly to your project. And outside of that, which is also a problem that I noticed testing stuff out for this, Bluetooth is not only delayed, but is also unstable. It has fluctuations. So throughout the performance, you're gonna see some inconsistencies in time, which means that you would have to heavily edit what you performed in order for it to feel right within the grid, to feel within time, all right? So it can be done, but honestly, I wouldn't do it and I wouldn't recommend it. So those are basically the different ways that I thought out of recording yourself using an electric drum kit. If you never thought about one of these ways that I mentioned and you're willing to give it a go, share with me in the comments as well. Which way did you prefer? Which do you think you're gonna try out? Please let me know. And since you edit, if you got something of value out of this video, please subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, leave a like, do the whole shebang. That helps the channel a lot. And if you want to help us even further, you can listen to our music on Apple Music or Spotify, and also follow us on social media such as Instagram or X, where we can be in touch in a more personal manner. And also follow us on Discord, join us on Discord actually, so we can keep our conversation going. So that's it, that's what I wanted to share with you. The only thing left is that never let anybody tell you what to dream about. Remember that I'll see you when I see you.